Evening. Got it adjusted, Mike? Okay. Good evening. Thank you everyone for coming. Let's go ahead and get the meeting started and call it to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Good evening. Thank you everyone for coming. Mike, that still seems a little loud. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. First on our agenda is to adopt the agenda. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Please keep in mind that we have added the reports from the student representatives to the board. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion about adopting the agenda as presented with that one addition? Okay. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is adopted as is, plus the one addition. The first thing on the agenda is information and proposals, and we'll start with the student representatives to the board. If one of you will please tell us what the question was or what the subject was, and then you guys take it from there. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There you go. Just project your voice. Thank you.
Program. Better leaders. Go through months in class that kind of any of this. There was much
Hey, it's good to have Mr. VT there, right? Hey, no, it's all good. He's doing a great job.
You know, we're we're doing the Leader in Me program every Wednesday during employees. Learning about the 7 habits. Got into
Great job. You can pull it down. Thanks, guys. I would encourage you guys to speak to each other about what's working in your schools, what's not, and then ask you to take it back to your administrators, to your principals, and share that feedback and that information. One quick question, does each school kind of have the autonomy to do, implement the program as they see fit or so forth? Because it sounds like it's very different in all 4 schools. Yeah, Mr. Derby.
So each school has, they meet with a coach, our district coach, she comes up, she actually originally, well, you guys met her,
Yeah.
a few weeks or in the summertime. She's working with each of the schools to have essentially a leadership team among the teachers, but also over the course of time, and different schools are kind of in different places with that right now, but then also to have leadership teams built within the students. I think THS has elements of that, like, and probably Southeast, I think a little bit maybe ahead in those regards, perhaps PRS as well. Like, do you guys have leadership teams up there at PRS too? Like the student teams?
The leader piece.
Oh, the leadership roles. Yeah, like with the pod leaders and things like that. So yeah, so it's, and actually here at the middle school, I can speak. We actually just, when Gwen was here last week, the middle school, they are doing action teams, even as young as Lincoln Elementary, they're actually doing, what did Brenda say, Logan? Like, I think about 27 different action teams that they're starting over there, like, that are just the students doing different things around the school, and each one of those has like an adult sponsor, so to speak. So definitely schools are in different places, but they're all seeing positive momentum, I guess you could say. So I just shot out an email just this last week to that group, kind of summarizing that, unless something I can certainly share with you guys. I just want to get a little bit of feedback from that group, which does kind of detail some of the different things that are happening in some of the different buildings. So.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. If there are any topics that you think we'd be interested in, please feel free to either email myself or Mr. Kramer. We're open to that. It's probably easier and better than us giving you assignments. So feel free to do that. The other thing I will tell you guys is please do not feel like you need to stay for the entire meeting. I realize it's a school week and you've got other things going on. So no disrespect or anything. You're more than welcome to leave when it's appropriate for you. All right, next on our agenda, Mr. Derby, is the report on the accelerated reader. So if the board remembers, we were asked about that specifically during public comment during the last regular meeting about why that program was discontinued. And so Mr. Derby is going to report on that.
I have just a very brief presentation that Mr. Harberts, are you available to share that? Sorry. Sorry, Mike. Thank you. And this, I'm going to go through pretty fast here, and hopefully you guys can see that. And I'm not going to read it to you necessarily, but just hit on a few points that I want to make sure I talked about. And I actually had a great conversation with a staff member earlier today about this. So, but I think this will kind of highlight why the decision was made, a little bit about it. If you guys have questions, feel free to interrupt me, ask at the end, either one. Go ahead, Mike. So this is just kind of a little bit of background. It's been in the district for a lot of years. Like, I think this was in use before I came. And the reason I say that is because it was in use here when my kids were in elementary school, and I came here when my oldest kid was in kindergarten. So it's been around for a long time. It is part of the Renaissance platform. So you guys are familiar with like our STAR testing and things like that. That's the same company. It's the same vendor. So it is part of that. So we do our STAR testing there. Historically, AR was a part of that suite of from that vendor. My first piece of this, like in this role, came in 2023. The vendors reach out to you, in this case, Renaissance. And they're like, hey, we want to make sure you're using your product to the best of your ability and setting goals and things like that. And at the time, well, even still today, licenses are distributed by school. So like they're saying, how many licenses do you need at each school? We do that for STAR testing. We do that for, at the time, AR. One thing I noticed at that time, we had way more AR licenses purchased than what we were utilizing. So then the quick question for me was, why are we purchasing so many licenses if we're not using these? Because that's just hemorrhaging money, and for what purpose? And that, come to find out, when you start talking to schools, they're like, well, we really don't use it. Okay, so then why are we paying for it? So even back in 2023, a few schools, I would say probably LFL High School, THS specifically, had already started de-implementing AR. Like we were essentially paying for licenses, and that's something I walked into that we currently weren't using. After learning a little bit more about it, and just having some other discussions. We also started taking a look at, is this the most appropriate tool that we could be using? And is this really giving us a bang for our buck? Okay, so you're gonna go ahead, Mike. So just some historical uses and practices here. This is both a kind of a mixture of good and bad. But I want to be fair, there's some things that are really good about this, and there's some things that are not so good about this. It does provide some incentives to read. It does that through like setting goals, and it's typically done through either books read or words read, and each book has like a point value associated with it. And I'll kind of show you a brief example of that here in just a little bit. But essentially it's like kids are reading books at certain levels. They get points for books. So when they take tests and pass them with a certain percentage and things like that. And so it tracks it. And the tests are, obviously there's a bank of tests. I think I saw today, like 220,000. So, I mean, there's a lot of tests in there, obviously, and things like that, which that's all fine and great, right? It provides some level of, did the student read the book? Do they understand it? Things like that. On the flip side, there also were some things that were happening that were maybe not such wonderful practices in some cases associated with it. Let me be very clear on this. This was not every single staff member doing this, so I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus here, but these are some concerns that arose that were involved with some of the decisions. So for example, kids may be missing a specials, missing recess because they didn't meet their points goal or their words goal. Things like that. If you're a struggling reader, that's probably not going to make you want to read more if you feel like you're having like a consequence for maybe not, hitting your AR goal. Even visiting with Judy, our librarian, around this, I had lots of conversations with her about this because I absolutely did not want this to affect the library in any way, shape, or form. They had actually gotten in some buildings to where the library clerk would actually have to go in and type in the password protected before kids could take tests, because like Lorene might want to take a test for me to help me boost my points or whatever. That kind of thing was happening in a few instances. Some kids were trying to take tests just after watching movies because, sometimes books have movies and so on and so forth. So obviously there's some of that going on, and that's not a real test or it's really not showing if kids are reading books or not reading books, right? Which if the point of AR is to increase reading and get people to read, that's not doing it. And then in a few instances, we were seeing AR scores entered as part of a grade, which I think if you go back up to the previous bullet point, that's probably really poor practice because of a number of reasons. So anyway, it's just some practice. And like I said, I want to be very clear, not every teacher was doing those things, but there were certainly pieces that we were hearing of that happening. Mike, thank you. So this, I apologize if that's ridiculously small, but sorry. It's, essentially what you're seeing there across the top though is literally like how AR kind of like, this is like a book and it says this is a 4th grade book. It's a half a point and it has this many words. So that's kind of how it tracks it. And then that's an example of a question there. And without boring you to death, I'll just read through that real briefly just so you can kind of see it here. So essentially the question is, this is a 4th grade book, 5-question test. What did Mrs. Rabbit say about the bunny's father? He had once taken a bite out of Mr. McGregor's toe. He had been put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. He had become very sick after eating a rotten apple, or he enjoyed taking naps under shady cabbage leaves. Essentially, these are very surface level, all multiple choice kind of questions. At the end of the day, I'm not saying they're bad, like they are some element of comprehension, but these are very, very, very much different than some of the other types of assessment questions that our kids are going to be exposed to. AR uses a leveling thing, and it's called ATOS, which actually is an acronym that even if I repeated you what it stands for, you would be like, okay, that really doesn't matter. But essentially, ATOS uses those 4 characteristics listed: word length, sentence length, book length, and then word grade level to formulate the book level. So just to kind of illustrate that, I have 3 books here. I have Water for Elephants. Okay, so big dude, big chapter book. Is it a good? I've not read it. So Lorene says it's good, and I can't see. It's 300 and some pages. Sorry, I gotta hold it like where Mike's at. 335 pages. Obviously a big chapter book. I have a Hamster Princess, Whiskerella. Okay, also a chapter book. Looks like it's about 230, 40 pages here, if I can get to the end. You know, got some illustrations and things in, you know, some of that stuff. And then I have Lego Star Wars. Okay, very, very short book. This one's not even, doesn't have page, oh yeah, it does have page numbers, are hiding down there, about 40 some pages. But I just kind of wanted to illustrate to you guys, if you guys had to take a shot in the dark guess, like which one of these three books would you say is probably the highest reading level? If, I mean, you know, if you had to guess, we got Water for Elephants, we got Lego, and we got Hamster Princess. I would probably agree with you, right? So that would be 100%. And this, they level them out by grade and then month. So like a 5.4 would be 5th grade, 4th month, for example. Okay, so this actually is a 4.4. Okay, this book right here. So 4th grade, 4th month. Okay. Anybody want to take a shot at Lego after doing this? 2nd grade? Sorry, Mr. Kramer, this is 5th grade, 4th month. Okay. And then Hamster Princess, also 4th grade, 4th month. Okay, so you can kind of see like these are much, much different books in content and thickness and chapters and number of words. They're certainly all worth different points just because one of the key pieces is book length. At the end of the day, though, that was kind of another piece that factored in as teacher, and I'm not saying this is bad. I completely understand why. Teachers were like, we need kids to check out books at the appropriate book level. And they would have ATOS levels based on, since Renaissance a product we use, like they could be based on their STAR test. And it's like, only check out books on that. Well, that might be very limiting for some kids, right? Because they're put into grade bands. I don't know if you guys were readers growing up. I can tell you I was. And the kind of books that I would have been interested in would have been none of these. Like I would not have read a single one of these ever, not even the Lego Star Wars. Okay, my house was Time Life books. My dad was like, if we're watching movies, it's got to be based on a true story. So I was a nonfiction guy. If I would have been limited to this kind of thing, I would have probably not read much of anything. I read mostly nonfiction. A lot of nonfiction books are probably a little bit higher grade level. And so if we're limiting kids to only books that are within their grade level, I get that we need kids to read books that they can read. But sometimes they might be able to still learn things from books that maybe interest them or that might motivate them to want to learn more. And so those are just some other things too. And that's why I took a little bit of time just to explain this little piece. So Mike, you go ahead again. I'm almost done, I promise. I'm trying to go fast. So. And if you guys have questions, please ask. So the other thing is we looked at some data around this. Renaissance uses an 85%, I guess you'd say, threshold or benchmark that they feel is like, if you can at least pass the test with an 85%, then like there's pretty good, you understood the book, right? Last year, when we made the ultimate decision to decide to move on from AR, at that point in time, this is just real generic district data, but between, you can break it down by schools. Our rate of hitting that 85% threshold was between 55 and 62% of the students that were taking the test. So in other words, one building here in the district had like 55% was as good as they were at as far as hitting 55% or higher, and one building was at 62%. If you were to drill down into that a little bit further, certain classes and whatnot were even lower than that. Like that was the school averages there. As we looked at that, particularly some of the younger grades, so this was probably in around, I want to say around Christmas time, November, December, probably. Some of the younger grades, like 1st and 2nd, I don't know that really kinder was using it much at all, or very, very little. They had way lower than those proficiency levels. And we really got to digging into this. And obviously you guys know, like the lit coaches did a work session with you guys last spring about the learning to read and reading to learn piece. Obviously we felt that there's some pieces that are just maybe not developmentally appropriate for some of that K-1-2. They're still learning to read, not reading to learn. And so we didn't want to basically have them picking up with some of the bad habits and things like that of, looking at pictures, guessing at words, things like that. So we were like, AR is probably not an appropriate tool for those grades. And then we continue to have conversations throughout the spring as far as like, some of the other grade levels as well. Hey, Mike, can you go ahead, please? Thank you. So one of the pieces that obviously came about is like the cost, and there's a cost, but I wanna make sure that you understand that cost was truly not the only thing that factored into this. I did a little bit of digging last year. The cost was approximately $6,600. Can't tell you for how many licenses, but that has been slimmed down over the years. As previously mentioned, we were wasting money on this, so it has gone down. Cost of their licenses has gone up. So if we were to do the same, I'd probably put it in the vicinity of $8,000, $9,000, somewhere in there, if we were to renew the same number of licenses this year that we had last year. Obviously not a huge cost in dollars, but the other thing that we were looking at is based on those proficiency rates of kids passing assessments, is this the best use of time and money? And the fact that we're spending time on it and money on it, those things obviously matter. And is this getting us a lot better data? Well, obviously it's been around for a long time. The principals give you frequent updates on data. So I think you kind of know generally where we sit as far as like, our state testing on data and some of those things. There's room for growth there. So we ultimately we're at a point where with some of the practices, with some of the data, with some of the cost, is this the best bang for our buck? Looking at some of the lack of depth of knowledge around some of the questions, which honestly, if you could get access to other things, you wouldn't see questions vastly different than the one I just showed you. Obviously, it's going to be different based on the book. There might be 20 questions on a bigger book instead of 5. But those are basically the depth of those questions. They're all pretty surface level, multiple choice kind of things. So ultimately, we made the decision of, hey, we should probably move on from this. When we did that, we sent communication out in April. We also gave them a list of alternatives, which is the last slide here, and I'll discuss that real briefly. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Sorry again that's extremely little, but just a few ideas on there. Like some places will do like a bingo, which is like if you do certain things, like you guys have all seen like, bingo boards that aren't like actual bingo. For like if you do this certain task, like, you can, and then, you have the mixed up things. So it's like do different tasks about a book, like describe a character, or read a book about such and such, or, all kinds of different ways to do that. They have like book blogs, which is, have students just write a little bit about a book. Let me also be clear. That is not to suggest that, hey, everybody should do a book report and teachers should have to read thousands of those. Like, I'm not saying that, right? Kids could read each other's. There's all kinds of different things that could be done there. They could do like a PowerPoint, a Prezi, those happen a lot in schools, maybe not. They could do a commercial, they could act something out, or even just sometimes like do like a book cover, right? Or like a book recommendation. Would you recommend this to one of your colleagues? You're in this case, a student, like one of your buddies. You could even do like have the kid make a quiz, right? If you read the book, you should be able to make a quiz on what's in the book. And maybe that could be used for other kids in the class. It could be as simple as an entry ticket, exit ticket. So like if I knew Mrs. Cates was reading a book, I'd be like, hey, tell me about the book you're reading and what's the main character. Do you like it? It could be that simple. I'm probably going to know if she read the book or is reading the book or, things like that. So we definitely presented them with some alternatives. We also have seen some pieces here too that have kind of like essentially replacements for AR, but we're kind of like AR just not in by that name. And so with some of the practices, we've had further discussions, and it's like we don't just want to repeat the same thing with AR and just have it called something else, because some of the practices and some of that were concerning. So essentially that bottom list on the right there is just like, hey, if you find an alternative and you're willing to kind of work through some of these things, then we can see about that. Because it also resonated with me, as I'm sure it resonated with you. Nobody's trying to make teachers' lives more miserable. Nobody's trying to put a bunch of extra work on them or take time that they don't have. That was not the intent. That was never part of the intent. And truly that resonated with me. I understand that. And so that's why I'm happy to, let's have further conversations about what some alternatives are. And so essentially it's like, here's the bottom line. We can't be punishing kids for not reading, 100%. If you can find something that doesn't do that, we can talk. Allow students to check out books that maybe are within their level, but also give them the opportunity to check out something that maybe is of interest to them. Call it a dessert book. That's a term that Judy uses, which I kind of appreciate. Something that they like and maybe will motivate them to want to read more. The other thing, you guys hear it, we hear it at the administrative level. We always hear about time. We don't have time. We don't have time. Don't be at like just literally saying, okay, kids, we're just going to do silent reading for these huge, long sustained periods of time, right? Because is that the most effective use of the time between 8 and 3:45? And our argument would be probably not, right? Like if it's a kid gets done with an assignment and things like that, then yeah, absolutely. Is that something that could be, good for them to do and things? Sure, 100%. But just to have like whole class just stop everything, we're just going to read and, probably not the best effective use of time. Trying to get kids to test, during library time or like, during some of those times. So it's not like interruptions to the classroom day for the same reasons. And then lastly, don't be putting these things into grades. Like obviously, I think, that's probably pretty poor practice to do some of that stuff as well. So we kind of said, hey, if you can hit some of these things and have a plan to address some of these things, so these things are not happening, then we can continue to have a conversation. So that's kind of where we landed. Like I said, so hopefully that gives you a little bit of enlightenment as to why the decision was made and, I guess hopefully addresses some of the concerns that the teacher had last month.
Any questions from the board? Mr. Derby, you have stated a couple of times that, we made the decision. Who actually makes the decision? That's the administrators as well as yourself?
Yeah, it was, I would say like we had, oh gosh, I don't know. We were kind of talking about that today. Probably it was the administrative team. So it'd be the principals, myself, Mr. Kramer. Yeah. So that was, and I don't know how many meetings we spent talking about this, several, like over the course of months. So,
Before the decision was made?
yes, the
Okay.
decision was discussed thoroughly. So,
And so would you encourage staff to come and speak with you then about alternatives to, the tests? That was the comment that was made, right? That they're now having to use ChatGPT to come up with their own tests and so forth. But would you encourage them to come to you then for alternatives?
yeah, 100%. Like I said, there was stuff put out in the email. You guys saw some of the stuff there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think the biggest thing is like what we've talked about is those practices, we don't want to see certain practices continue because we feel that A, they're not effective, B, might even discourage people from reading in some
Sure.
cases. And so we just want to have good practices, want to have effective teaching, want to, effective tools for kids.
Great. Any further questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Derby. I appreciate it. All right, next is committee reports. Oh. Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Committee reports. We'll start with the policy committee. Anyone from the policy committee want to report? Yes, ma'am. Trustee Sharp, is your microphone on? Thank you. Mr. Harbers, you want to, she's got a softer voice than I do. Yep.
To school, staff conflicts of interest, retirement and resignation of classified staff. These are all on second readings. I believe that might be the final reading. They are all in our packet. We also looked at developing a policy on student-initiated organizations. That is in the works and our attorney review, and then it's expected to come back to the board in November. Also had 3 other policies, and their titles are a little different because they're present day. We have 3 policies that we're revising and we're doing a lot of revision on them. They are advertising or solicitation in schools, staff participation in politic activities, vendor relations, sales calls, and demonstrations. And those are also in basically an an element of revision. They are not ready to come to the board yet. So those are things we are going to be working on. And I do believe, Kate, want to say anything? Kate handed me, I think Kate handed me a, policy that she would like to see addressed by the policy committee. I think I will announce that here.
Sure.
Okay, it is field trip travel. And, Kate and I have been talking about that as well as, I believe, Chris. And, we were looking at the limitations that are in here and wondering if they needed to be updated. But, and I had already been thinking about that and Kate brought it to me, so it's great.
When's the last time that one was?
It
revised?
was in 2020, I believe, is what we looked at, January 2020. So,
Okay.
so I am going to be submitting that for, review.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the Activity Advisory Council, DAC. Either one of you want to give a report?
I didn't bring my notes, but if I remember correctly, we did a lot of discussing about the mileage for our officials. The ones coming to help with games, as well as ours going to other locations. So that was a good portion of the meeting, is discussing how we were going to pay, what was included in the mileage, where it was going to be paid from, whether it's just from the location, the town, or if somebody shows up from, let's say, Newcastle to Torrington and then hops in with somebody else and goes to Cheyenne with them or something like that. And so that was the main discussion as far as the mileage in that. We also got into some changes, possible changes in classifications, I believe it was, with WHSA. And truthfully, I am more confused than when we started. Because they're looking at changing the what levels of classifications the different schools are in. So that is still in limbo and they're looking at that. And I think that was the two main subjects we were on.
Is there a deadline for that decision to have to be made about the classifications?
November, is that what that is? Yeah.
So that will come to the board then.
We actually have nothing. They
Oh,
dictate to
good.
us.
Fabulous.
How that works. And so it's
Fabulous.
100% Wyoming High School Athletic Association.
Great,
They tell us what it's gonna look like.
awesome, great. Is that it, Trustee Alexander?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, next is public comment. So we're going to do public comment just a little bit different. And this is just in anticipation of some of the most recent events. Only a couple of you have identified what you intend to speak to, so I can't really pull anybody out of this stack, but here's how it's going to go. Recently, there was a court case called Pollock v. Wilson up in Sheridan County, #2, where the board chair and the board of trustees were brought into a lawsuit for not allowing someone to speak during public comment. And it was about a specific personnel matter. So in an effort to adhere to what Federal Court Judge Johnson has said and the practice that has been approved in Sheridan County #2, the way we're going to do this is if the board or if the public comment that you would like to speak about, the topic you'd like to speak about is employee specific or specific to an act of a specific employee, we will enter into executive session. And the executive session, we will let that individual come back with the board. This still the same rules apply, the 5-minute limitation, as well as all of the other rules that I will go over. If you would like to address the board in public comment, and it does not have to do with a specific employee, and you do not identify, so I'm not talking just names, but any identifying information as well about the employee, you are more than welcome to do so. These meetings are conducted for the purpose of carrying on business of the schools in the school district. They are not public hearings and not meetings held in public. You will be recognized by myself by your name. You can come to the podium if you would like us to go into executive because it is a specific employee matter. Please let me know. And what I'd like to do is kind of hold all of those till the end of public comment, and then we will do that one at a time. The board has to be consistent in how we treat personnel matters. So even if it's going to be positive comments, those still need to be made in executive as well as any negative. I would ask again that all public comments be respectful, be professional, no vulgar use of words, no, you cannot be impolite, rude, or discourteous. The board is happy to listen to those comments on personnel complaints, but only in executive session. And if you have a student-specific issue, again, I would offer you the opportunity to go into executive out of the ability to protect your FERPA rights. The board will not respond, and no questions will be answered, no rebuttals. The other thing that I will let you know is if there are employee-specific complaints to be made to the board, the employee that is subject of those complaints has the right to also be in executive session at the same time. Okay. All right, with that, just first off of my stack is Rebecca Cohorn.
Good evening, ladies.
Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I would like to discuss letter B under new business. I understand that there is an action, a letter of engagement for independent counsel. Now, trying to skirt around the guidelines that were just previously given. We are aware of certain comments made, and I want to be clear that I support anybody's right to free speech. However, I cannot defend your right to free speech when you will not respect and defend my right to the Second Amendment, right to bear arms, the right to educate my children the way I see fit. And the opinions and expressions of those opinions that are solely mine. Because I say things online does not give another person the right or the excuse to bully and harass someone that they would not normally do so in a face-to-face confrontation. I am aware that there's a policy within the Goshen County School District that was printed many years ago for situations such as this. And my concern is that a independent consultant will be engaged to perform the task that this board has already made clear has a procedure to deal with. My concern is that this independent consultant will come in and tell you to do what you already know you need to do. My concern is that the appearance of hiring this consultant shines a bad light on this board, in that it appears that this independent consulting is being hired to cover something up or to prevent someone from facing consequences that they may, in fact, should face. As I said before, I will defend anybody's right to free speech. I have the right to shout fire in a crowded movie theater. I then have the expectation to face the consequences of that action. My concern is that this independent consultant will be hired using taxpayer money and is in fact a waste of that money, especially if we come to the same conclusion that should have been reached all along. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Anne Maycomber? Ms. Maycomber, pass meaning you want to wait until executive or just pass completely? Thank you. John Maycomber. Thank you. Scott Smith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I also came prepared for a few statements in regards to hiring an outside consultant. Ms. Cohorn touched on a few points. From a state level, we have a tendency to hire a lot of consultants and do a lot of studies. And it will be very hard for me to vote for those in the future, primarily because, especially from a state level, hiring these consultants, oftentimes they already have an agenda ahead of time. One great example is the legislature wanted to study property taxes and a few circumstances regarding to property taxes. And the consulting group, after $50,000, came back, and I just simply read the list of stakeholders, and all of them were individuals that spent the taxpayers' money, but not once did they look at the taxpayer themselves. And so that is just one thing to be on your radar, is hiring a consultant. Are they going to have the same outcome if it's not already predetermined? The other thing that I have found with hiring outside consultants is oftentimes things run away from you. And so in another circumstance, the state hired a consultant just to do a study on a certain topic. And before we knew it, we were spending $10 million, and it was a stamp of approval, and it didn't come back to the legislature as far as, oh, this is the recommendation of the study and the consultant. So you always have the right to delegate your responsibility, but ultimately you cannot delegate your authority and responsibility. Just hold that tight and make good decisions and not waste taxpayers' funding.
Mr. Massey. Okay, you're welcome to do that, sir. So I'm going to hang on to you if that's okay. The next one is Kim Cothra, sorry.
Not a very good public speaker, but good evening to you, Board of Trustees. First, I would like to thank you for allowing me to be up here. My name is Kim Cothra, as Lena said. I attended all my school education in Goshen County and graduated from Torrington High School. My mom was a secretary to many, and I think the last Lorraine and I knew, she had the record for the most superintendents served in the state of Wyoming. My husband is a retired teacher and a coach from Torrington High School, and I've been employed by Goshen County for going into 28 years. So as you can see, I have many years of school educational system. And oh yes, I am a registered voter in Goshen County. The reason I am here this evening is to remind you all that in Wyoming, a Board of Trustee member cannot discuss executive session items with the public. Executive sessions are closed meetings that allow board members to discuss sensitive and confidential issues privately. These sessions are exclusive to board members and are not open to the public. The purpose of executive sessions is to assure confidentiality, foster board independence and oversight, and enhance relationships among board members. However, I see comments made pertaining to events that are taking place in executive session, once again, should not be public. There have been copies of things left on one of our local bank's copy machines that was confidential information, but yet it got into the hands of a local citizen and comments, plus comments made on several social medias accusing of the district sweeping things under the rug, sessions causing stench so bad that you need to shower when you get home. Is this right? No, this is not right. I do believe if you read the Wyoming State Statute 16-4-408 executive sessions, you will agree with me, or you should. It is not it is not following state statute or the Goshen County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees Leadership Governance, which was adopted in 2003 and updated in January of 25. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kim. Mr. Massey, I just want to make sure, so you've got stated on here sportsmanship, but you still in your topic. Okay, just want to make sure you understand so that we're not abusing executive session. So if I understand correctly, your intent is to discuss something specific to an employee of the district. Okay. Is there anything you want to discuss in public before we enter executive? I appreciate that and I respect that. Okay, we just want to make sure you're given the opportunity. So with that, I will request from the board that someone make a motion that we enter into executive session for that purpose. And it's under Wyoming Statute 16-4-405A2. Do I have a board member that's willing to make a motion?
I would move that we adjourn into executive session to discuss this matter.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of entering into executive session, allowing Mr. Massey to speak pursuant to Wyoming Statute 16-4-405A2, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Massey, if you will follow us into executive session, please, sir.
Now you go. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Now. Listen, stress level.
All right, we're back in regular session. The next agenda item is superintendent's report, Mr. Kramer.
Yes, I'll just cover very briefly, the student enrollment numbers. Unfortunately, due to the projection, really you can only go by the colors, so I'll read off the schools. Red indicates a decline, green indicates a increase, and that is from the previous year, as we look at September. In LaGrange, we did have, that's the top green box you see there, they did have an increase within the September numbers. LFL High School did have a decrease of approximately 5 students from the previous year. Lingo Fort Laramie Elementary had a decrease of 5 students. Lingo Fort Laramie Middle School had a decrease of approximately 4 students. Lincoln Elementary had a reduction of about 15 students from previous year at this time. Southeast Elementary had an increase of 5 students. Southeast High School had a decrease of 1 student. Southeast Junior High had a decrease of 5 students. Trail Elementary had a decrease of about 1 student. Torrington High School had a decrease of 1 student. Torrington Middle School had a decrease of 7 students, and PRS had a decrease of 4 students. So overall, across the district, comparatively from the previous year of September numbers, we're down approximately 42 students for the average daily membership. And as you know, our membership is what accounts for our projections for budgets and things. So a decline of 42, certainly we take the 3-year average of those. And so there is some leniency in regards to funding, but it is always something that we have to keep an eye open as we kind of progress through that 3-year average. And we kind of talk about that regularly, but wanted to make you aware of those numbers as I do monthly for the enrollment, and I'll keep you updated as that may change as we progress through the school year.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Do any of the board members wish to pull any of the items? Okay, not hearing any. May I have a motion then to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion about any of the consent agenda? All those in favor of the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Under new business, the first item is consider adoption of the proposed Goshen County School District Number 1 Board of Trustees Board Norms. Just for the public's knowledge, we did meet with a board trainer, Farmer, to go over just some skills on how to be a more effective board. We're a fairly new board with 5 new members. So we spent probably a good 3 hours with Mr. Farmer, and the board made a decision to have our own workshop where we continued the conversation and established our board. So is there, Ms. Trustee Strampy, would you like to read off the norms? Because I understand you're the one that put them together formally.
Yes, so hopefully the language here reflects what we session. So we have, as members of this board, we will put the good of the students first, prioritize local issues, maintain an environment in which everyone feels comfortable speaking, respect the roles and responsibilities of the board and district personnel, discuss different views openly and thoroughly, collaborate for the good of the district, and introduce sensitive topics in advance when possible and always in good faith.
With that, is anyone willing to make a motion to approve the board norms? Is there a second? Any further discussion pertaining to the board norm? Any discussion? I guess my one question would be to this board. I appreciated the time put in with Mr. Farmer. I appreciated the time put in establishing the board norms. But how do we hold each other accountable? How do we, for lack of a better word, enforce these board norms amongst ourselves? If at all? And is that the intent of the board, is to follow the board norms? Trustee Alexander.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on this because I have seen it and I've been directly assaulted because people didn't like the way I voted. So they got all upset and accused me after the vote, called me a conspiracy theorist, and basically got in my face wondering why I voted that way. So, and nobody was held accountable for acting that way, even though it is in our governance rules, and I believe there's some state statute on doing so to somebody that is on a board like that. So there's been other situations that happen as well. I have a hard time with these board norms when they're not always followed. Anyway, we put them out there, but it just doesn't always happen that way. And so I have a hard time voting yes on this because it doesn't happen. And I understand people get wound up and heated and everything, especially if it doesn't go their way. But I don't know, it's just doesn't feel like it's going to happen that way anyway. So that's what I have to say.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, trustee. Sher-
I can also attest to that. I have been called nitpicky. I have been referred to as gotcha. And if we had any intentions of treating each other with respect and had any intentions of having transparency and honesty on this board, that should have been built into us as mature adults. And I have not seen that. Have I participated? Sure, I will own that. But all of this is covered in our leadership governance on how to behave. We are just adding additional specific little sections in order to use them as gotchas, in order to use them as things to hold people accountable to. But it's in our leadership governance on how to behave. And we need to start abiding by those. Instead of adding more rules on top of more rules, let's read the leadership governance and actually follow the leadership governance. It's there on how to behave on this board. But there's many things that get broken in those governance. And so is the Pacific norms in there? No, but behavior is how to behave as mature adults. And so I'm not interested in adding more rules to rules that we don't even follow now out of our governance. Why would we do that? So that's what I have to say.
Further discuss, go ahead, trustee Hager.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry,
Keep
who was
handing
it?
to me.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry. So what I'm hearing is that you're waiting until this moment, after we've spent all of this time putting these norms together, agreeing to be with a consultant and spending hours doing that. We all came together to come up with these norms. And I cannot believe that this is the first time that anyone has said anything about not being able to accept these. These have been in the board agenda since last week. I spent personal time putting them together. I just think that this is an example of, I don't know, not wanting to, I guess, improve the relationships. I mean, all of those things that you guys are talking about were things that happened in the past, to my knowledge, and we are trying to fix that with these norms. So I'm just, I mean, I am truly confused right now.
Trustee Hager.
Yeah, I guess I'd kind of have the same sentiment. I mean, it's true. All 9 of us sat in the same room for 3 hours. And your 2 statements over there never came up. They didn't. So I just like, be honest about it. Be consistent about it. We're in the same room. We all came up with these norms. None of that was brought up. We talked for 3 hours over these. And now you're coming up with different views on them. It's just not consistent. And honestly, it just makes me not trust anything you say, because how can you sit there for 3 hours, agree upon it, help us put them together? And then when the show comes on, you say, nah, I don't like them anymore. I'm not gonna follow them. And then I guess I'll speak to trustee Alexander. Like, if you always say something from the past that we're not, so you're not gonna follow these because of something that happened in the past. So how could we ever go into the future? I mean, trying to work together. We created these just recently. These have nothing to do with what happened 5 years ago. So, yeah, I guess it just shows to the public, like, there's some of us that want to work together and agree with how we're going to act, and then some that don't. So good luck.
I can't speak specifically to it, but within the last week, accusations, false accusations were made. And you know, I cannot speak to them specifically, but it did happen against us. So that's all I can say about that. And you all know what I'm talking about.
So I'll just go ahead.
Trustee Goulart, please,
Oh,
you guys, let's
sorry.
try to maintain some order. Trustee Goulart, go ahead. Thank you.
So I would add this. One of the challenges with this is that this all reads well. These are good words. And I think everyone that was in that room, when we had that 3-hour discussion, was sincere about the fact that this was a worthwhile goal, and these were some worthwhile things to write down. The problem we have is we cannot agree on what these words mean. We share the same vocabulary, but we do not share the same dictionary. And the best we could do is table it until we decide we're going to agree on the meanings of words. And that might be a long haul to get there. Might not even be this board. That's one of the big challenges that makes this near impossible. If we cannot agree on the basic meaning of words, how can we come to any sort of an agreement that any of us will be able to enforce or uphold in any way?
Madam Chair.
Trustee Chairs.
Trustee Goulart, that statement deeply concerns me because as a board, our job is words. We are here to enforce policy. We are here to follow our board governance. And if we can't agree on those basic words, I fear for the board as a whole. We are not going to agree in opinion. That is very clear, and that's okay. But it is our job to work together for the best choices for our staff and students. And I don't know what that looks like at this point, to be real honest. And I mirror our board chair's concerns with, I don't know how we hold the board accountable currently, and that applies to board governance, not just the norms. Because I think there are instances that we have all witnessed where that has not been followed. I do think we need to all do better going forward. We can't keep looking back at the past and things that have happened. And so I guess same thing that the board chair asked, how do we hold ourselves accountable for the documents that are already in place, not even adding new ones? And again, this has already been kind of said, but I am a little sad that over 4 hours of my life were spent talking about these norms. I can't get those back. And it looks like that was for no reason whatsoever.
You know, I will add to that. It wasn't just 4 hours. This board asked me to chase down Sue Bellish. This board asked me to chase down Brian Farmer. And I did exactly that. It took me hours and hours of my own personal time, which I am fine spending if it's not a waste. This board was arm in arm in trying to go forward and doing that. And I did exactly what this board asked. And it was not until tonight that any resistance whatsoever was brought to us. That is frustrating. We cannot move forward together as a board if we don't stop this. We have got to stop this behavior. I will tell you this last 2 weeks, I can't even tell you how many hours I've invested in school board things. Not one time, not one was a discussion about a child benefiting the district or anything like that. It has been drama. It has been political BS, and none of it has helped this district, not one thing. So if we're going to continue to waste our time coming up with board norms and spending time to having, these kumbaya discussions to try and work together, that's fine. Let's talk about it right now. Let's stop wasting time doing this. The whole purpose of this is so that we could all get on the same page about what's important to this board, what's important to this district, so we can continue to move forward to benefit the kids. That's our first norm. The fact that we actually have to even put that in writing is ridiculous, frankly. That's why we all are supposed to be here. We need to figure out how to work together to benefit this district, not ourselves, not our political agendas, but each other and this board. We can disagree. Absolutely. It's healthy. We should disagree, but we've got to be able to work together and move forward together.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Trustee Sharp.
I'm not going to disagree with you at all on this. What I'm going to tell you is that my intentions were to vote in favor of these norms until the situation that Chris talked about. And then it was very apparent the norms were set up. We just hadn't voted on them yet, and we couldn't even abide by them for one meeting. So that told me a lot.
Yeah, that's why I had asked, how do we hold each other accountable to the?
And that's where we're at. And it's both sides. It's not one-sided. So. Because I know there's people that say, oh, it's just one-sided. It's not one-sided. It's
Trustee
both
Strachey?
sides. We are both all very passionate people. And I'm here to work for the kids. That's what I want. But I'm not here to be personally attacked.
Are you finished? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Trustee Strampy?
Yeah, so in the interest of maybe, I don't know, moving on in a positive way. So I know, we're not all going to be perfect with these, and I think that we all knew that we weren't going to be perfect with these. I would like to think of them as like a promise or a commitment, right? Thank you. And so I do think that as far as holding each other accountable, I mean, I think that there are really easy ones. So if we're looking at like discuss different views openly and thoroughly, we are doing that right now. Like, yay. And so I would just like to see us try to move towards honoring some of these.
She texts back in the morning.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Come on, Mike.
Sorry, Trustee Strampy,
No,
go
that's
ahead.
remember
If you can.
I know. Oh, yeah, that's a struggle anyways. We had the intention of maybe printing these out and having them at our board meetings. And I do think that put the good of the students first, like at the top of that list, will have a positive impact on our meetings and on our interactions. So I would like to see us adopt these and strive to meet them, strive to hold each other accountable, even if we know that we're not going to be perfect.
I like the use of the word commitment. I will be honest, I'm very frustrated coming into tonight as well with the lack of ability by this board to conform to norms that we hadn't even had an opportunity to adopt yet. However, if we have any hope for being able to work together for the good of this district, we've got to start somewhere. We just do. We've got to start somewhere. So, these aren't gotchas, these aren't rules, these are norms that we want to encourage each other to conform to. And I like Trustee Steinbach's use of the word commitment. we're making this commitment to the board and the district. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of adopting the norms, please signify by saying aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay, can I get a hand raise so that I can do a poll, please? So all those in favor, all those in favor, please signify by saying, or raising your hand, sorry. So how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, motion carries. Next, new business, consider approval of letter of engagement for independent consultant. May I have a motion, please?
so moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, there's a little bit of housekeeping to do on this one. I understand that an email went out with that letter. I did not receive your email, probably an oversight, but do you have a copy of it that I could just glance at?
Absolutely.
Thank you. But for the sake of time, I can proceed, and if the letter covers any of these questions, then that'll work. The first one is whether or not we are able to approve this without the public knowing the name of the firm. Is that addressed in the letter?
So the letter itself was drafted with the full intent that it may be shared with the public, Trustee Goulart, if that makes sense.
Okay, so we can, in this public meeting, say the name of the firm.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's important because that's important for transparency. Do we have a cost, Madam Chair?
Yes, so the cost is $250 per hour, and anticipating it would take approximately 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours.
So we have an actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Not to exceed?
It is not a not to exceed. It's an engagement letter that states the cost, the anticipated hourly cost. There is no not to exceed.
So it could conceivably go beyond what they've suggested.
Well, they haven't suggested anything. So they've given an hourly rate and then just given me an estimate, like it may take 4 to 5 hours. So yes, there is potential it could take longer than that if something were to come out during his review.
Do we run into any transparency statutory problems with not having an actual dollar figure or a not to exceed amount to present to the public?
Not that I'm aware of. Ms. Cates, are you aware of anything pertaining to that? Oh, seriously, you guys? Oh. It says it's sent. Okay, let me send it to everybody right now.
I would recommend, Madam Chair, that with this, you share exactly what you've stated. We like to have not to exceeds in there. It's not a requirement, but it is encouraged.
Would it be possible to approve the letter with an addition of a not to exceed amount on our end?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Goulart.
I believe the statute that addresses this is Wyoming Statute 21-3-110, subparagraph A, Roman numeral 8. But I don't have the statutory, the text of that exact statute, but it is with the understanding that that would be the statute that would require that a board only approve a known amount.
And what was that again, Trustee Goulart?
That
23
is
what?
21,
Oh, 21.
21-3-110, subparagraph A, Roman numeral 8.
Did you all receive the email? So please take time to review it. I apologize that no one received it. And trustee Goulart, you said it was section A8.
Um,
The reason I'm
Yes,
asking is,
A and Roman numeral 8.
yeah, so that's actually pertaining to the purchase of insurance, supplies and materials, not professional services.
Okay. Might have been a precedent issue. Okay, thank you, Madam
Mhm.
Chair. Um,
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Case.
in my opinion, the key is that this is professional services.
Right.
If it were purchasing goods, it would be different, and depending upon dollar amounts, we would need quotes and things of that sort, but professional services allow for one individual to provide a price and the board to approve if so chosen.
But if the board is uncomfortable or concerned about that, I am more than happy to put a cap on the number of hours spent. And if the individual is unable to complete the review under that cap, he can readdress it and we can come back to the board if there's a level of discomfort. I mean, I agree, we need to be good stewards of the money for the district. So happy to do that if that's what the board wishes we do.
Madam Chair, this may not need to necessarily be in there, but in talking with, when we talked about this, the recommendation of how we receive the information, should that be in there?
No.
Okay, all right, thank you.
This is literally laying out the scope of the review and the hourly rate. And trustee Goulart, would you like to review it on a computer screen and not your phone?
yeah, Madam Chair. So, I'm sorry, I was trying to get that read while you were discussing. So is there a thought that we would add a not to exceed limit then?
If that's what the board is more comfortable with, I'm more than happy to make that request. And so that would be a request that I would make in writing to him. It's not something that would be added to the engagement letter.
So then we would need to table this item until we get that number.
No, no need to do that. So if you were to put a cap on it, you just tell me the number of hours that the board is comfortable with, and we would authorize him up to that amount of number of hours.
Well, we run the risk of that being an arbitrary number because we haven't spoken to these individuals to get a feel from them for how long they think they might need.
So I can speak from personal experience and having done these types of interviews and professionally, they take about 4 or 5 hours to do these types of investigations. And if we were to get to that point, to the 4 hour, whatever number we choose, we can then have him come to us and say, I've done this much work and I'm not going to be able to get it completed in that cap that you've given me. Can I have an additional hour or 2 hours or what have you? So he'll communicate that with us to keep the board apprised of that anticipated cost. Does that make sense? Okay. I would recommend that we move forward with the original motion and then we take separate action to put a cap on it if that's what the board is wanting to do. Oh, have we not done a motion? Yes, we did. Trustee Chairs made the initial motion and the second was trustee Steinbach. Look at my note-taking skills. Proud of you. No, we would, this is an original motion just to approve the letter and then a new action item to cap the amount of hours is what I would recommend. Yeah.
No, I was.
Oh.
yes, you can do that. You can do it
It
that way.
sounded-
I would
yeah.
say yes.
Okay, everybody clear on what we're voting on? So there has been a motion and a second, and this vote is for approval of the letter of engagement. So the board has already agreed to retain an independent consultant. Now this is approving that it's this individual that is in the letter of engagement. Does that make sense? Okay,
There is one more item. Madam
Okay.
Chair, I'm sorry.
sure.
The method by which their findings will be reported to us. We have to make sure that that allows for an official record of the findings of evidence under the Wyoming Public Records Act.
Okay, run that by me again, trustee Goulart.
I'm sorry.
Run that by me again. I kind of missed what you first
Okay,
said.
I mean, I apologize for having to read this, but, so Wyoming Public Records Act, 16-4-201. There must be an official record of findings or evidence, and a verbal only report would not suffice. It would have to be something written.
Which section are you looking at?
Oh, okay.
But which subsection?
That one I don't have a subsection for, but it is 16-4-201.
Okay, let me peruse it real quick. Because that's specifically for public records, and I do not believe that it pertains to a personnel matter. Please keep in mind, just so the board is aware, the independent consultant we have retained is an attorney. Like, so he has a duty to follow the law and comply with the statutes as well. So if he comes, runs into anything that is concerning to him, like, hey, I have to give you a written report, or I have to do this, I have to do that, he will bring it to our attention because his focus above anything to protect his license is to comply with the law and the state statutes. I don't see anything in here, trustee Goulart, that states that it must be in writing, again, pertaining to a personnel matter, but I'm happy to review whatever you can find. And again, if any type of report, oral or written, is done by this independent consultant, it will remain confidential as a personnel matter.
Okay, Madam Chair, I thought I had a specific subparagraph that might help, but I do not on that one. That all I had was the title and chapter.
I want to give you ample time to look if you are wanting to do that, trustee Goulart.
Well, I suppose another option would be to have entered into the record the either statutes or precedent or whatever legal guidance that would allow us to do those things. Number one, vote initially, before we have a cap, vote initially on approving an expenditure where we haven't yet decided what the maximum amount's going to be, number one, and number two, the method by which that information is going to be reported to us.
So trustee Goulart, we actually did spend 3 hours with the district's attorney answering all of these questions that you just asked. I believe that he answered them thoroughly, and every board member was given the opportunity to ask questions. So if there are additional questions, I'm not quite sure how we want to, as a board, bring that to his attention.
I don't think the questions will be additional ones. And again, we don't have any answers to these things in writing.
We're not
for the re-
required to put them in writing, trustee Goulart.
We're not required to keep public records on expenditures that we spend and items that we
Absolutely, we will,
approve.
absolutely, we will have invoices and so forth, absolutely. Any further questions or discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, trustee
The
Sharp.
only thing I was thinking is maybe it would be, and I know there's a motion on the floor, but I was thinking that it might be best to discuss and approve the amount of money that we're talking about, the cap, before we actually vote on the letter. I think that would be the right process so that we are fully understanding what we're spending before we actually vote on the contract.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
because I think that may affect or not affect how people vote, because I would like to know what we're gonna spend before I know that we're gonna do it. You know what I mean? I'd like to have an idea of what the cap is gonna be.
Is that the hang up with the board? Is the board concerned about the maximum amount or what have you? Because what we can do is we can amend the original motion to include the limit, if that helps everybody feel more comfortable.
Yeah. That would make me feel comfortable. It's not the money per se, but as a responsible person, I'd like to have an idea of what it's gonna be before I actually approve the letter. Thank you.
So I can do an amendment.
Perfect.
I would like to amend the original motion to approve the of the letter, the adoption of the proposed letter to engage for the engagement for independent consultant and to cap it at 7 hours
Do I have a second?
for a total of $1,750, if my math is right, and I'm
Thank
not
you.
good at math.
Do I have a second then to the amended motion, which would include approval of the engagement letter with a cap up to 7 hours? Is it? Thank you. All right, any further discussion? No further discussion? Okay, all those, let's just make sure we all know what we are voting on. All those in favor of approving the letter of engagement as presented for the independent consultant up to 7 professional hours, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'm going to need hands again, please. All those in favor of approving the engagement letter for the independent consultant up to 7 hours, please signify by raising your hand. Motion carries. Thank you. I will communicate that to him, that he's got a limit of up to 7 hours. That was in the original that she amended. That makes sense? Okay. Any questions? Is everybody clear on what we just voted on? Because I don't want questions later. Okay, everybody clear? Okay, good. All right, next is consider approval of offering an employment agreement for the 2025-26 school year to Melanie Wolf as the district social worker for the remainder of the 25-26 school year. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of offering an employment agreement to Ms. Wolf, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider approval of the school improvement plans for district schools. This is pertaining to the 2025-26 school improvement plans as presented, and this would include for Lincoln Trail Elementary, LFL Middle School, and Torrington High School. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the school improvement plans for the district schools listed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider approval of purchase for repairs of the THS cooling tower per district policy 3420. This is the purchasing guidelines. This is for the replacement of the top 1/3 of the THS cooling tower from CFM Company in the total amount of $36,714. Installation by district maintenance staff. May I have a motion? Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the purchase for repairs of the THS cooling tower per district policy 3420, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is consider approval of proposed revisions to district policy 1250, which is the visitors to schools. This is the second and final reading of policy 1250. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the proposed revisions to district policy 1250, visitors to school, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is the consideration of approval of proposed revisions to district policy 4119.70 / 4219.50, which is staff conflicts of interest, and renumber to 4307. May I have a motion?
So moved.
This is the second and final reading, by the way. Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the proposed revisions to district policy 4119.70, 4219.50, and renumbering to 4307, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is to consider the approval of new district policy 4253, which is the retirement and resignation of classified staff. This is the second and final reading. May I have a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of approving new district policy 4253, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Everybody awake?
Good chain reaction.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next is to consider the establishment of a committee to consider a request for renaming the Southeast Football Stadium. And Mr. Kramer, I understand that in order for this process to be triggered, we had to have received a petition with so many signatures. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And can we disclose the anticipated new name for the Southeast Football Stadium?
Mr. Williams in attendance. I want to make sure he gets it right. I should make sure I get it right, so I want him to say it.
Teeters Memorial Field at Bullington Stadium. Great. Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Any further discussion? How do we want to establish the committee?
I will, based on the rules that we have in place, will then establish those individuals that have interest within the designated area for Southeast, and then also you assign a board member to serve on that as a non-voting committee member with myself. And this would come back in front of, the recommendation from the committee would come back at the November board meeting.
Absent any objections, I'd be honored to be on that committee, unless anybody else would like to be. Okay. All those in favor of establishing a committee to consider a request for renaming the Southeast Football Stadium, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And Mr. Kramer, you'll just reach out. Let us know.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. Next is consider assigning the location of board meetings during the 25-26 school year. We've kicked this subject down the road a few times, and I would like to ask the board to take action on it. So may I have a motion, and the motion would be to assign a different location for the board meetings moving forward.
Madam Chair, do you want a specific location?
No, just that we're going to move it from central, similar to what we've done historically.
Then I would make the motion that we would move from central for the next meeting.
And just to be clear, the request is that the location change every month. Are you still on board?
May I add to the motion that I'd like to go to LaGrange before the snow flies?
And that we have chili. No, I'm kidding. Is anyone willing to second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I just want to make sure that we have some people here that have to travel quite a ways. Is this, how much of a burden is this going to be? I am all in favor of moving because I love going to the other schools, but I want to make sure that we've got some people that travel for an hour just to get here, I believe. We're pretty close. And I just want to make sure with this being a 6 o'clock meeting that how much burden this is going to place on them.
I would remind the board that we did accept and adopt in our bylaws the ability to appear by Zoom or Teams or what
Right,
have you.
right.
And I would more than encourage you to do that. If the weather is bad, do not take the risk and so forth. So absolutely, please take that into consideration. And I am confident that Mike is going to have our IT up and running every time.
Madam Chair, on top of that, are we moving to Teams instead of Zoom?
We have moved to Teams.
Because I haven't received a notice of that or anything, so that I
There's
can.
No notice to be given. It's on the district website, right, Mike? Okay.
But I haven't downloaded an app or anything. I don't know anything about it, so.
It's because you're here. You don't need the app.
Okay, well.
So just so everybody
might
knows,
need
we're moving to Teams.
If any trustee would like to stop in and have a quick 101 over Teams, because there is a little change on how to join and those things, I'd be more than happy to do that
Okay.
with any board members.
Well, I will
before the
need
next
that
meeting.
because I'm used to
Yeah.
Zoom.
No, absolutely.
It's
It
much-
is just slightly different. Yep.
It's more user friendly.
Not a problem, just got to get the right thing.
Any further discussion on moving the meetings to different locations each month?
So are we voting like for a set schedule, or is this just maybe?
So this is to agree to move the location of the meeting every month. We don't know which school first. I do agree we probably should go to LaGrange while the weather is still decent. But other than that, it's not a set schedule yet.
Can I make one
course.
request?
Of
That
course.
number be at the central office one for our budget one that they will be zooming in. The audit, thank you. So
The auditors won't be here in person?
They typically have appeared via Zoom.
Okay, okay.
They can't be at that.
It's probably, what I hear is in person more expensive, right? Yeah, so I'd rather them be here by Zoom or Teams.
Yes.
Okay, so does that, have we just confused everybody? So the motion is that we as a board are agreeing that every month, the regular board meeting will move to a different school as we have historically done this last year. Yes, during the school year. Except for December. Any further discussion? I didn't think it was gonna be that complicated, but. Okay, all of those in favor of moving the location of the regularly scheduled meetings every month to a different location during the school year, except for December, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Yep. Motion carries. Okay, board topics for discussion. Anyone got anything they want to talk about?
Madam Chair, I have been trying to figure out how to kind of speak to our teachers and our students and our parents and faculty based on our recent proceedings. And I am a processor, so I am a writer, so I don't speak, I'm not as comfortable speaking. So I wrote it down. So I'm going to read what I have to say. This has been something that I feel really strongly about. So before I begin, I want to take a moment to publicly and personally apologize to our students, staff, faculty, and parents for the time, attention, and resources these recent proceedings have required. As elected members of this board, our focus should always remain on serving our students and ensuring the success of our schools. I regret that these distractions have taken away energy from that important mission. While I must be careful with my comments this evening, I want to make it clear that the decisions made by this board have been conducted in accordance with established policy. The board's role in matters such as personnel issues and grievances is clearly defined, and if the process is found to be disagreeable, there are proper mechanisms within our policies to propose and enact change. Until such changes are formally made, we are bound to follow the rules as they exist. It is natural that not everyone will agree with every decision. However, disagreement does not diminish the integrity of the process or this board's commitment to act within its defined authority. What concerns me deeply, however, are the public comments made by certain board members on social media. It was my understanding that, as a board, we collectively developed and agreed upon a set of norms to guide our conduct. Norms rooted in respect, professionalism, and unity of purpose. These norms were established in good faith and with the shared understanding that our differences would be handled respectfully and within the framework of board procedure. It is both disheartening and disappointing that not all members have upheld the standards we agreed upon as a board. I am aware of at least one public post that does not reflect the professionalism or respect outlined in our board norms. Comments such as these appear to stem from personal grievances or agendas, neither of which have any place in our boardroom. We must remain mindful that representing our constituency requires us to consider the voices of all community members, not just those who speak the loudest or share our personal viewpoints. Prioritizing the narrow and often uninformed perspectives of a select few undermines the credibility of this board and erodes public trust. Personal or political motives have no place in the governance of our schools or in the important work of this board. I remain committed to the students, staff, and families of this district, to transparency in our actions, and to the professional conduct expected of those entrusted with public service. I hope we can all move forward with renewed focus on what truly matters, providing the best possible education and support for every student in our district.
Thank you. Any further discussion topics?
Thank you, Kate, for that. I agree with your entire letter. I guess, since I see you wrote the letter before part of this meeting, I guess the one question I would have for just us as a whole, so if we voted no to accept the board norms, but when you got sworn in as a board member and raised your right hand and agreed on our board governance, just help me out, Tony, if you want. If you don't agree with the board norms, but you agree with the board governance, how can we hold each other accountable then to the board governance? How do you want me to do that? So as an example, if Tony does something that I feel goes against board governance, but it's not on the norms, just want me to say what?
Well, the board governance requires that you have a meeting with the board member that you disagree with their behavior. It should include 2 board members. So I guess you have a witness. If that doesn't work, then you bring it before the board, is what the board governance says. That makes sense? But you're wanting more specifics, Trustee Hager.
Oh, I just want, like, as example, I mean, everybody's all for transparency and wants everything in the public. So I'm just questioning, how do we hold each other accountable rather than sitting up here saying you offended me 4 years ago, or I'm just not going to agree with you, so I'm not going to accept these board norms. Just how do we do it professionally in the public, being transparent when we don't agree with each other? But we all agreed to under the board governance when we agreed to become a board member.
Trustee Hager, Madam Chair, if I may address him directly.
Yes, trustee Goulart.
I so badly want to have this discussion with you, and it's almost worth the $750 fine it would cost me to do it in front of all these people. But,
Well, I'm not
I'll
splitting.
just, I'll split it.
No, I won't split it with you.
But yeah, I hope you know what I'm saying. That, some water has gone under the bridge, even since we attempted to bring these norms together. And, I don't know, we'll see. We got a little ways to go yet. We might be able to find some ways to come together, but, there's a lot we have to figure out. I mean, like I said, we're all speaking English, but we're not coming up with the same definitions, and we got to figure a way through that. So I'll just stop there so that I don't have to come up with $750.
I think we can have a discussion without disclosing confidential discussions. I mean, we're all adults, like, I think we can have that discussion without disclosing those specifics.
Yeah, no, I guess my statement had nothing to do with anything
Right.
that we can't disclose. It was more on the line. Just how do we hold each other accountable if we're not gonna agree? My opinion, if we're not gonna agree to the norms, then we all have to agree on board governance. If we don't agree on board governance, my stand is, if you don't agree with that, then you shouldn't be on this, plain and simple. So what I'm saying, the majority of us feel that you're going against board governance, and you shouldn't be on. How do we hold each other accountable without saying, getting offended and getting our gosh dang feelings hurt? Something's just.
No, I think now you're talking about a specific process. And if you feel that strongly about it, then the thing to do would be to begin that process, and it'll go where it goes. I mean, that's
Well, what's the
accountability.
process? That's what I'm
Well,
asking. How do you want
Madam
to-
Chair, would you give us a high-speed pass through the process of what trustee Hager is talking
Yeah,
about?
so briefly, my understanding is that if you have an issue with another board member, you bring it to their attention in a private conversation with another board member. So there'd be three of you. You bring it to the board member you're having the problem with and bring someone with you. Then if that doesn't work, then you bring it to the board as a whole and how to handle it. Part of what I have run into historically is I have asked to meet with board members and they've refused. So how does this board want to deal with that?
Madam Chair, is that not addressed in the leadership governance?
It is not when a board member refuses.
You know, it's all confusing for me because when I first started on this board, I asked about accountability. And I was told that we were all self-accountable by this board. I had two people on this board in a meeting tell me we were self-accountable. And so now things are changing and now you want to hold people accountable. So it's really been confusing for me because I think that was the November meeting. I specifically asked about accountability. And we can go back and listen to that video. And I was told we were self-accountable. So, and I actually disagreed. I actually thought that we should be accountable to each other, but I was really shocked when I was told that we were self-accountable. So those are things that there needs to be some consistency. We can't jump back and forth. We need to have some agreement.
Well, trustee Sharp, I would disagree respectfully. I mean, this is a moving body. This is a moving thing. These are human beings. It's not static. Things are going to change. And with that change, we have these conversations, right? Hey, guys, we need to do better. We got to show up better. We just have to come together. We can't keep playing these games, right? So in November, whenever it was that you asked, I think that the hope was that, yes, we all knew how to behave, but that clearly has not been the case. And that's disappointing.
Yeah.
And I think that when trustee Hager is asking, how do we hold each other accountable? That needs to be answered. We need to come together on how we are going to do that. Because again, not one of these subjects that we are talking about has anything to do with the kids or benefiting this district. It is us squabbling about social media drama and those types of things. And frankly, I'm embarrassed of this board moving forward.
I don't disagree at all. And actually, I agree with trustee Hager that that should have been the answer as far as I was concerned back in November.
That's the point, though. If we keep talking about what happened 4 years ago, or back in November, or, you said something to me so long ago and it hurt my feelings. Like, if we don't let that stuff go and move forward, this board is a dead duck in the water.
I agree. And what I'm trying to say is I believe that we need to take more time when we make answers. We need to think about consequences. And so instead of just giving a answer, we need to actually think about what we're doing. And that the answer back then should have been, we are accountable to each other. And we need to do a better job on thinking about our answers so that we are thinking about what the future holds for us as we get along.
Trustee Sharp, we spent over 6 hours as a group talking about these things. Like, I don't know what other thought can go into this. It's incredibly frustrating because we're just spinning our wheels.
Oh, I'm sorry, but you were not the only one there. We were all there.
100% we all were there.
And,
That's my point. Engaging in this conversation.
Right. And so some of us, I'm a thinker too. I have to process. So I don't answer right away. But anyway, I'm all for doing something that this team will actually develop in a team. But there's two things I have to have from this board: transparency and honesty. Those are the two things. And I've been agreeing with you. What do we need? I want transparency and honesty. Because with those comes trust. And when I can trust, well, how do I get it? I know that's the tough part. That's the two things I need in order to trust. And I'm just trying to, I'm giving you honest answers. But how do we get those things?
Any further discussion from the board? I would just ask this board, please stop going to social media and political podcasts and news rags for your information. If we can discuss these together as a whole moving forward, we will stop wasting so much time and do things that benefit the district. I mean, it's gotten to be a lot. One other topic that I will bring to the board or to the public as well is the farm to school program. I would still encourage you, please get a hold of Ramona Moody. She told me, I think it was the end of last week, that we are just getting close to being done with the donated meat. And so if you have something to donate, please get a hold of her. She did tell me there were still funds available for the processing fees. So please, I mean, that's such a huge gift to the school district if you're able. It's not just meat though, right? There are other potatoes,
Yep.
like whatever else you are able and willing to donate to that farm to school program, please. It is an incredible program that I would like us as a community to keep supporting. The other thing is that there is a new push right now for donations to Children's Hospital with fleece blankets. I believe, is it the second graders, Mr. Kramer, second grade teachers at Lincoln that are trying to kind of collect that fleece for those blankets. So if you are willing and able and feel called to donate to that, that is a great cause as well. Any other topics to be discussed by the board tonight?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add, and I hope that I'm right, that fleece donation, I think, is part of the Leader in Me groups that Lincoln Elementary is separating out into. And so I just wanted to make sure that that connection was made.
That's awesome. Thank you, Trustee Strampy.
Madam Chair, just for people's information, I did check with So Addicting and they do not sell fleece. So I'll just save you the stop. Thank you.
Do you want me to read this?
Sure, if you'd like.
Ms. Brothwell and Ms. Nelson's Random Acts of Kindness Students Action Team at Lincoln Elementary School is looking for fabric donations. The Student Action Team would like to make and donate tie blankets to the Children's Hospital of Colorado, who has recently expressed their need for blankets. As sponsors, we feel as though this is a great opportunity to represent our community and exactly what our Student Action Team is all about, random acts of kindness. We are looking specifically for fleece fabric donations between 1 and 3 yards of various colors and patterns. This will allow us to make multiple blankets and various sizes of blankets for children of all ages. We'll be accepting donations through the end of November as we plan to deliver before Christmas. Please deliver donations to Lincoln Elementary or send them to school with your Lincoln student. If you're unable to donate fabric but would like to donate in another way, please reach out to Mrs. Brothwell or Mrs. Nelson via email or phone. Thank you in advance for your donations and the opportunity to help our Student Action Team continue to spread random acts of kindness.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, any other board topics?
This is kind of a board topic / future meetings. Just a reminder, WSBA annual conference, we need to register by tomorrow. So if you're still contemplating, please, the early bird fee is expiring tomorrow. So we'd love to get on that. That does not mean you cannot attend. The dates are November 19th through 21st, but the early bird rate will expire after tomorrow. Thank you. Sliding scale, I believe, is it's not the registration, but there is the later we know, the more expensive it is.
Madam Chair, is there a chance they can send somebody else in your place if you can't go? Does it have to be the Pacific person? So you could have an alternative.
Okay, that's true. He wants to go to something. Okay. So anyway, get signed up for WSBA annual conference if you want to go. And then the next thing is the next regular school board meeting will be on Tuesday, November 11, 2025 at 6 p.m. Mr. Williams, are you still out there? Are you okay? Okay. See, I'm asking for permission. Do you see this? Are you okay to host? Please get some tips from Mr. Daly. All right. Next meeting will be in November at Southeast.
Brutal.
And with that, the meeting is adjourned. I have to take my